Right, it's 10:30, so we're going to make a start. So this is a webinar on how to deal with bullying and harassment in the workplace, and my name is Louise Rance. So to tell you a bit about ourselves, I am part of Clover HR. We're a HR consultancy that operates throughout the UK. We're your trusted people advisors, so we're here to help you in any way that we can. Between us, we've got over 150 years experience, so we can give you the best advice. We all have our own specialisms in the areas of people, including recruitment, training, coaching, mediation, well-being, rewards, and many other people strategies. We have bases in Worcester, Birmingham, London, and Manchester, and we also have consultants in the Derbyshire and in Wales. A little bit about myself. I said my name is Louise Rance. I'm a HR business partner and workplace mediator. I've worked in HR for over 20 years with various fairly large corporate companies, including Manchester United, Great Places Housing Group, Job Centre Plus, Probation Service, and Calico Homes. And I've worked at HR business partner and HR manager level. If you have any questions during the webinar, and I really encourage you to ask questions so you can have the best benefit, then please use the Q&A function. I'll answer the questions as we go along or at the end. I have muted your microphones just to enable the webinar to flow freely. So this is what we're going to look at today. But before I go through the contents, just to put into context a bit about the subject we're talking about. So Bupa did a workplace survey this year, and they found that of the employees that surveyed, 26% reported that they'd been subject to bullying at work. And that represents, over the last 3 years, that represents an increase of when the survey was done in 2019 of 14%. So the number of people reporting bullying at work has nearly doubled. And there are various reasons for that. And some of the reasons are to do with the pandemic and lockdown and people working from home. Sectors that were particularly impacted include the education and transport sector. And the reasons that were revealed in the report for that were due to increased workload that they'd experienced during the pandemic. The retail sector has also been particularly badly hit in this respect. So in the survey, 33% of staff working in the retail sector stated that they'd been bullied in the workplace. And the reasons for that, again, are impact of the pandemic, so job uncertainty, job losses, furlough. So this is a very important topic always, but particularly so now. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to consider what is bullying, what does it look like, what behaviours might you see, what is harassment and what's the difference, the potential effects of both bullying and harassment in the workplace. We're going to consider what legal protections there are for employees and look at what actions you can take as an employer to prevent or deal with bullying and harassment. We'll then consider introducing and enforcing a policy, and we'll look at how Clover can help you do that, and we'll have a summary at the end. But as I say, ask questions at any point during the presentation using the Q&A button. So these are definitions of bullying. There's no one legal definition of bullying. So these two are taken from ACAS and the Health and Safety Executive. The official definitions from ACAS, as you can see there, is offensive, intimidating, malicious or insulting behaviour, an abuse or misuse of power through means that undermine, humiliate, denigrate or injure the recipient. So that's talking about the behaviour and the effect of that behaviour. The Health and Safety Executive define bullying as negative behaviour which is targeted at an individual repeatedly and persistently over a period of time. I'm just having a look because I've got a chat there. So somebody's asked if this presentation is available after via email. Yes, it will be. If you I'll talk about it at the end, but if you send me your email, I will send you a copy of the presentation. Thank you. So yeah, the health and safety, negative behaviour, it's targeting an individual repeatedly and persistently over a period of time. So that definition targets a particular time period, a build-up, if you like. Further definitions of bullying. So bullying behaviour from a person or group that is unwanted and makes the victim uncomfortable. So it's the behaviour and the effect on the target of that behaviour, the victim. So these are things that the target of that behaviour could experience: feeling frightened and upset, feeling less respected or put down, being made fun of or shouted at, especially in front of others. That particular aspect comes up a lot. For instance, being criticised in front of other people, which leads to this feeling less respected. A manager giving an employee heavier workloads than everyone else without justifiable reason. A team or a manager not inviting a team member to social events, so excluding them. The person feeling belittled, mocked or picked on by another individual. Being called nicknames or being blamed for things that are just not their fault. Being ignored, including in front of others. Or people spreading gossip or malicious lies amongst the workforce about an employee. So harassment, what is harassment? So the Equality Act 2010 defines harassment as unwanted conduct related to a relevant protected characteristic that has the purpose of affecting or violating the individual's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating or offensive environment. The important thing to remember about the legal definition of harassment is it must be related to a relevant protected characteristic, which are listed underneath and are defined in the Equality Act. So characteristics of age, disability, gender reassignment, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation. These are some examples of harassment. This list is not exclusive. These are just examples to give you an idea about what harassment might look like. So it could be insensitive jokes or pranks, lewd or abusive comments, deliberate exclusion from conversations, displaying abusive or offensive writing or material. Something to remember here, that offensive or abusive material could be written in the forms of things left about an office or a workplace. It could also be by electronic, by email or WhatsApp groups or Facebook. So it is inclusive of all methods of communication. Abusive, threatening or insulting words or behaviour, name calling, picking on someone or setting them up to fail, undermining their contribution and position at work, demanding a greater work output than is reasonably feasible, so treating them unfairly, blocking promotion or other development advancement. That could be refusing requests for training that are reasonable and proportionate to their job role. Sexual harassment, so it's unwanted conduct of a sexual nature that has the required purpose or effect. So it's unwanted conduct of a sexual nature or related to sex that has the purpose or effect of harassing the individual, and the individual is treated less favourably because they're rejected or submitted to the conduct. So that could be a sexual advance was made and repulsed, and then they're treated differently. Or it could be they did encounter or engage in a sexual relationship, but that then were treated less favourably because of that. So examples of sexual harassment, lewd or abusive comments of a sexual nature, such as regarding an individual's appearance or body, unwelcome touching of sexual nature, displaying sexually suggestive or sexually offensive writing or material. And again, that can be any of the mediums that I mentioned, asking questions of a sexual nature, sexual propositions or advances, whether they're made in writing or verbally, refusing promotion or training because a sexual advance was turned down, making offensive comments because a sexual advance was submitted to. So what are the potential effects in the workplace of both bullying and harassment? So both can lead to poor morale and employee relations. If people do not feel that unacceptable behaviour is being tackled, then it can also lead to a loss of respect for the managers, which can result in poor performance as people feel less engaged, less trusting of the workplace. That can lead to increased absenteeism and work-related illness. So the effects on somebody that's been bullied or harassed can have quite profound effects, severe effects on their mental health, which can lead to absenteeism, for stress, anxiety, depression, or it could be for other reasons, but actually that's masking the real reason for the absence. High staff turnover and low retention rates, people leaving the workplace because these issues are not being tackled, this behaviour is not being tackled, damage to the company reputation, ultimately tribunal cases, which we'll go into talk to in more detail, and lower productivity. So all profound effects for a company or an organisation. So let's look at the legal protections for employees. What recourse do they have under the law? So the Equality Act 2010, an employee can take a case to a tribunal at any point in their working relationship. And if the tribunal finds that harassment has taken place and it's been directed to somebody that is covered by one of the protected characteristics that we talked about earlier, age, disability, gender reassignment, pregnancy or maternity, race, religion or belief, sex or sexual orientation, then their remedies can include making recommendations to the company or organisation for changes and directing that a compensatory award should be made. Protection from Harassment Act. This is a criminal offence to harass somebody. Then the offence carries a fine of up to £5,000 or 6 months imprisonment. For somebody to bring a successful harassment case, they need to prove what the effect has been on them. So that would be a consultancy report that talks about the effect that there's been potentially on their mental or physical health. So it does need to be proven. Health and Safety at Work Act. So all employers have a duty of care to their employees to create a safe and healthy workplace, and that safety includes physical and mental safety. And if the employer cannot show that they have taken reasonable steps to set the correct standards in their workplace and to tackle issues of bullying or harassment, then that would lead to the potentially being a breach of that Health and Safety Act, which can lead to criminal prosecution. So that can mean imprisonment or fairly heavy fines. Breach of common law duty. Again, the common law duty is similar to the duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act to create a safe and healthy workspace. A breach of that can lead to damages being claimed in a civil court against both the company and a named individual. If the employee has at least 2 years service and they can no longer deal with what they're being subjected to at work and it's not being tackled, then they can resign and claim constructive dismissal and make a claim to a tribunal. And a tribunal can award a sliding degree of damages against the employer. So some fairly severe consequences, both for the individual if they're the victim of bullying and harassment, and also for the company or organisation. So as an employer, what can you do about it? So these are the main things that you can do about it. So outline acceptable standards of behaviour and ensure this is communicated. And that's usually done through a policy. If you don't already have one, then introduce a bullying and harassment policy. I'll go into these points in more detail. Enforce your bullying and harassment policy. It's not just enough to have a policy, you need to have it embedded into your organisation and ensure it's used. And provide initial and follow-up training on bullying and harassment and acceptable behaviour, outlining appropriate workplace behaviours. So if you've not got a policy, what should the policy include and how do you go about introducing it? So the policy should include a definition of acceptable workplace behaviour, steps an employee should take if they feel they're being harassed or bullied. So it needs to be specific about how do they complain, what will happen. In with that policy, it's recommended that you have options for mediation. Sometimes it can be that an individual perceives bullying is taking place and that's how they feel it's happening. And actually it's due to a breakdown in communication, or the person that is engaging in these behaviours isn't aware of the effect of them. And mediation can allow those two people, a structured mediation, to air how they feel, to say what they want, and for things to change going forward. So it's always worth having in there. The policy should include who to make a formal complaint to, what actions the company will take, and what training will be provided to employees and managers. So it's suggested that when you have a policy, that becomes part of your induction process, so that it's the standards are set right from the beginning of the employment relationship. It demonstrates a duty of care to your staff and lets employees know that you will not accept certain types of behaviour, and it communicates the process. It demonstrates the organisation has taken all reasonable steps to prevent harassment. So enforcing the policies, as I said, it's not just enough to have a policy, you need to embed it and enforce it. To ensure that all employees are provided with a copy of the policy and have accepted it or read it. So either a paper copy, quite commonly these days it's electronic copy that people can accept to say they've read and understood it. Carry out workplace training at the start of the employment relationship and then repeat it periodically. So this should be training for all employees on what is acceptable behaviour, about what to do if bullying and harassment does occur, and training for managers about how to deal with complaints of bullying and harassment, and to know what standards of behaviour they need to ensure happen and enforce. And then to follow the policy whenever a complaint is raised and take action if needed against the perpetrators in the investigation finds that there is evidence that the unacceptable behaviour is taking place, and actively encourage concerns to be raised so that people feel that they can raise a complaint, it will be acted on, and they will be protected during that process. So where can you find more information? ACAS is a wealth of information. If you go on the ACAS website, there's also the government website, workplace bullying and harassment. And you can go on our website, our Clover HR website, to find out more about what we do and how we can support you. So how can we help here at Clover? So as I said, we've got an experienced qualified business partners who can help you form and introduce a bullying and harassment policy. We can also provide training for your managers and staff on expected workplace behaviours and how to deal with complaints of bullying and harassment. So in summary then, we've looked at what is bullying and harassment, what are the potential effects of bullying, what are the legal protections for employees. We've looked at what you can do as an employer, including in introducing and enforcing a policy. And we've outlined how Clover can support your business in this area. I would like to offer you, if you don't already have a policy, I do have a template policy. Sometimes these policies are called dignity at work policies. I do have a template that I can share with you, a policy, if you want to, if you don't currently have a policy and you want to introduce one. So if you do want a policy, just drop me an email. My contact details are there, louise@cloverhr.co.uk. you have my phone number. You can also go on our website and send us a message asking for the policy as well. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I've covered during that presentation? Okay, Rachel, if you've got a question, do you want to put it in the Q&A box? Or you can put it in the chat box, either would be fine. Okay, Rachel, thank you. So what can you do if the person being bullied doesn't want to make a formal complaint? This depends on whether any other people have witnessed the bullying. I'm going to answer this one live and I'll come back to the next question. This depends on whether the behaviour has been witnessed by other people. Other people can make a complaint on somebody's behalf. So, for instance, the harassment legislation, harassment cases can be brought if other people have witnessed the unacceptable behaviour. What I would suggest is the person on the receiving end of that, the victim, if you like, that you have a confidential conversation with them. It may be that they fear the consequences or don't understand the process. So I think a thorough explanation to that person. However, if unacceptable behaviours have been witnessed by other people, you still can do an investigation and potentially take disciplinary action. So I hope that helps, Rachel. Okay, it's via phone and email. So if it's email, you may well already have the evidence for that. If it's via phone, but obviously the person would need to give you that email. It's via phone, presumably there weren't any witnesses. Yes, David, I'll send you a copy of the presentation. Thank you. I've got a few things in the chat there. Yeah. Does an employee need to have 2 years service to claim constructive dismissal? Scott, yes, they do need to have 2 years service to claim that. Okay, it's just... Okay, Rachel, thank you. Okay, so thanks everybody. I hope you found that useful. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Oh, I think there might be another question. Just let me check. Yeah, that's done. Yeah, if you want a copy of the Dignity at Work template, again, drop me an email and I will send you that. So thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful and hopefully I'll see you at the next webinar. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.